You ready, Brianna? You know, there's a lot of teenagers in the audience. They could probably do this. How is everybody? It's hard to have a conversation with 40 people and me sitting up here talking to all of you. Okay. Hate to miss out on YouTube. Do we have a proclamation about this Boys and Girls Day? All right, hold on a second.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, Mayor, we're back up. All right, so sorry about that. Welcome. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Clovis City Council meeting of September 3rd, 2024. The official end of summer has come and gone. Our students are back in school. How's it going so far? Just going, huh? So anyway, thank you all for being here. I'd like to ask Councilmember Bessinger to lead us in the flag salute.
Please join me in saluting your flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Baskel?
Here.
Councilmember Bessinger?
Here.
Councilmember Moana-Tua?
Here.
Councilmember Pierce?
Here.
Mayor Ashbeck?
And I'm here. First up tonight is a presentation of certificates recognizing students for participating in the American Legion state programs. So what I might do is ask the sponsors, the faculty, the advisors, the American Legion coaches to come up, if you would, to the, there you go, thanks. Thank you. And I don't know if you would like to, we don't have anything to read about it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Boys and Girls State before we celebrate these brilliant young future leaders?
So this is the second year for Boys and Girls State program. Boys and Girls State program is made up of the high schools in the Central Valley, all the way down, well, actually it's a state program, all the way down, up and down the state of California. But specifically here today is regarding the program for California and our district for Clovis. And we interview these individuals, and we pick them based off of grades, based off of activities, academics, everything that we can even interview, even just them interviewing, and we pick the best. Some of them, we have a really hard time at picking them because they are all so good. But today, they're the ones that we've chosen, and they've gone pretty far. They should be proud of the accomplishments that they made today, over this past summer. The program is a one-week program up in Sacramento State, and it is where they learn politics, everything from being a governor to being a county supervisor, down to a city mayor, and on down to even the water district, where they're learning how to run the water and sewage and everything you can consist of running a city, a county, and a state.
Don't say down to the city mayor, because we think this is like the best kind of government. The rest of it's a little squishy. No, I'm just kidding.
The best city of Clovis.
Yeah, okay, there's that. But
learn how to run that.
I'm giving you a bad time. No, that's great. Well, that's great. Well, we look forward to meeting him. And I will say, last year when you came, Councilmember Moana-Tua and I were thinking of our youth commission, and for me it was this meeting last year when I was like, yes, this is the kind, we need to do this locally. So really it was part of my inspiration for our youth commissioners, some of which are actually in your Boys and Girls State group as well. So, thank you for that inspiration. Would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you. My name is Gloria Jean Sinopoli. I'm the unit chairman for the American Legion Auxiliary here in Clovis for the Girls State program. We are a separate entity to the program that the Legion provides, and we sponsor the girls from the Clovis high schools. And it is a program of leadership as well as hands-on learning government. They run and create their own cities, their own counties, and of course, state government. So it's a huge learning experience for these young ladies. They're young ladies who have already finished their junior year in high school. And we have been doing this. Girls State's been in nationally since 1940. And so here in Clovis, we've started shortly thereafter, so we've been doing it for a number of years. I understand we're going to have a new high school in Clovis next year, so we're looking forward to talking with the activity counselors there and seeing if we can't sponsor a young lady from that school also.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for what you do. Would you like to add anything? You're good? Okay. So thank you for that background. So what we're going to do is, I think there were maybe 15, so I'm not good at math, but I divide them among my 4 colleagues. So we're each going to read 4 names, except Mr. Baskell, he only got 3. And then we invite you to come up here and receive your certificate, and I think your coaches are going to join us up here and make sure we distribute this correctly. So I'll start with Councilmember Pierce.
All right.
And I don't know what order these are in, so pay attention.
All right, I have a certificate of recognition honoring Isaac Chavez, a Clovis East High School student. And are we just going to have them all gather up here?
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
Perfect. So just
Don't leave.
stay up here as we call your name and you come and receive your certificate. Next, we have Kyle Zhang from University High School.
And I would like to make a special recognition of Kyle, possibly the future governor of the state of California, but I was informed that Kyle made it to lieutenant governor, the highest performing student in our group here, so well done.
All right, we also have Christian Kagara from University High School also. No, they're all here. If I pronounced it improperly, I apologize.
Make sure you can get it to him.
And, okay. And then Jayan Shetty from Clovis North High School.
All right, Mr. Bessinger?
I have a certificate of recognition for Nico Paolovincini. Nico? Alex Perez?
As Clovis Youth Commissioner, I will note for the record.
Alex Perry? Cameron Rodriguez?
Okay, next we have Varsha Jagadish. we have Peyton Carroll. We have Eli Pugliese. He's a fellow youth commissioner as well. And then Bailey McPherson.
Okay. Caitlin Baki Guadalupe. Congratulations. Sorry if I butchered it. Laura Habib. There you go. And Michela Pena.
So I want to know if any of you, like, what offices did you rise to? Did you start at mayor, council, what? Anybody, any mayors in the crowd? Any city council people in the crowd? Yay, good job, good job. County supervisors? Attorney general? Oh, county public defender, nice, nice, all right. Any? Nice. Nice. We have great taste on the Youth Commission. Well, on behalf of current leaders, we are proud of you. We are grateful there are future leaders. So I feel hopeful that we're actually in better shape than I might think on any other given day. So thank you for doing it to your parents who drove you yet again to something else and supported you, or your families and your friends. Thank you. I will say that I think I applied to Girl State when I was in high school, and not to hold a grudge, but I actually didn't get chosen. So I'm just saying that was about 200 years ago, so I guess I turned out sort of okay, but you guys have a great head start. So congratulations to all of you. So would you like a photo? Now, we offer our small children that come here for their photo to come sit in our chairs, so I would like to invite you all behind the dais. Take your picture up here, because you will be sitting up here one day. Come on up here. We'll get out of the way. We're not even interesting in this photo. Oh, funny, I hadn't thought about that, but I didn't get to. Oh, so sad. Come on. Yeah, sit here, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so I didn't get to. That's during my life. You might have to, like, alter it. 2 minutes and stuff. Stand. We'll fill it in. Fill it in. Come on. Do you want to sit? Stand behind you, you're tall, you can stay behind you. Can they? More, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. You do it. Right, it's a new thing that I understand, it's a lot of work. Oh, here, do that, come on, come on, come on. This is great, great. Where should we look? What are we looking at? The middle. The middle, all right, middle. Super great. So families, thank you to the coaches from American Legion, thank you very much. You guys are great sports, thank you. The 7-year-olds are a little cuter, but it's okay. You guys, you did all right. Take care. All right, goodbye. Yeah. You guys can stay the whole time if you want. No? Congratulations, that's impressive. Yeah. We would welcome the feedback, only if it was positive. No, I'm just kidding.
Good.
Congratulations. Thank you to the Legion coaches and appreciate the support. Thank you all very much. Well, that certainly clears out an audience after all of that. All right, under public comments tonight, we have on the dais a couple of items not on our agenda: Tobacco Free Coalition, Winery and Shaw area, transit. So please know that we have received them, and we will, staff will be taking action as appropriate on these items that are here. All right. Consent calendar, these are items that are considered routine in nature. We act on them in one motion unless a member of the council or a member of the audience wishes to pull an item. Does anybody wish to pull an item off of the consent calendar?
Mayor, I'm not sure we opened up the public comment.
What? Oh, I didn't want to. No, I'm just kidding. Critique me, quick. I forgot. Okay, delete what I just said. Public comments. Anybody in the audience wishing to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda, but is within our jurisdiction. So sorry. Any of those? Okay, sorry again about that. Thank you for the cue. Now the consent calendar, routine in nature, one action. Anybody from the council wishing to pull an item? Public, anyone here to talk on any particular consent calendar item? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion for the consent calendar, items number 2 through 12.
Motion to approve consent calendar.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5-0. Under administrative items tonight, there's a couple of items. One is a second reading of an ordinance ordinance amendment 2021-004, a request to amend the Clovis Development Code as a cleanup action to further define the mixed-use business campus land use designation to allow for certain ancillary campus-affiliated housing uses in the RT zone district, add development standards for the campus-affiliated housing units, and establish an RT overlay zone district. That vote was 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. I was the no vote, and Councilmember Baskell recused himself. So this item is back for a reading because it was not unanimous, and it looks like the staff is our clerk. Brianna.
Just real quick, I need to recuse myself again before you go into items 13 and 14.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Brianna.
Mayor, there's no staff report. This is just a routine item for approval. It was heard last council meeting.
Anyone on the council wishing to hear anything on this item again from staff? Anyone in the public wishing to comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for action. Is there a motion?
There is.
Coming.
Motion to approve the ordinance 24-11 OA 2021-004, request to amend the Clovis Development Code as a cleanup action, et cetera, et cetera.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will be a no, and 1 recusal. So that motion also Passes 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstention. Item number 14 is a sister item to that. It's an ordinance 24-12, rezone 2021-010, a request to rezone approximately 63 properties inconsistently zoned within the designated research and technology park from the RA, R1AH, R1 7500, R1 8500, and CP zone districts to the RT zone district or RT overlay zone district. This motion also was passed with 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 abstention. I was the no vote, and Mr. Baskell was recused himself. Staff on this is also our clerk, Brianna.
Yes, Mayor, there is no staff report. This was approved, introduced at our last meeting, and this is a routine item.
Thank you. Anybody wishing, any councilor wishing to have a staff report on this item or comment? Anybody from the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, bring it back to the council.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-12, R 2021-10, request to rezone approximately 63 properties inconsistently zoned with the Research and Development Technology Park plan, and that's all.
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, and 1 abstention, Councilmember Baskell. That motion does carry. Thank you. Public hearings tonight, there's 2 items. First is to consider items associated with approximately 1.73 acres of land located along the east side of Osmond Avenue and the west side of Barron Avenue, north of 2nd Street. Clovis 135 Osmond, LP is the owner and applicant. Underneath that item, there are 2. General Plan Amendment 2024-004, a resolution approving a CEQA exemption from further environmental review, and an amendment to the general plan to redesignate the subject property from the medium-density residential designation to the medium-high-density residential designation. And item B, rezone 2024-003, an ordinance rezoning the subject property from the R1, single-family residential zone district to the R2, multifamily medium-high-density zone district associated with approximately 1.73 acres of land located along the east side of Osmond Avenue and the west side of Barron Avenue, north of 2nd Street. Those items will be presented by Assistant Planner Liz Salazar. And George. Just George. But we've never met Liz, so welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, council members. Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. My name is Liz Salazar. I'm an assistant planner, Planning Development Services. The project is located on the east side of Osmond Avenue and the west side of Barron Avenue, north of 2nd Street. The property is approximately 1.73 acres and is surrounded by a ponding basin to the north, single-family residential to the east and south, and multifamily to the west. The general plan amendment request is to modify the existing land use designation from medium density residential to medium high density residential. The rezone request is to modify the zoning from R1 single family residential low density to R2 multifamily medium high density. The plan amendment and rezone designations for medium, high, and R2 would be subject to the development standards that are shown here on the chart, which would be between 7.1 and 20 dwelling units per acre. For this subject parcel at 1.73 acres, that would be between 12 and 35 dwelling units. As the R2 development standards would be a maximum of 35 feet height and 2 stories. And parking would be subject to the development code dependent on the number of units. So I just want to point out that tonight is a little bit of an unusual situation in the fact that the applicant has described their intent to develop a 47-unit, 100% affordable senior housing project, which is different from the development standards of the requested designations. So I'm going to go over those development standards in the next chart. The applicant is requesting an eligibility bonus due to the fact that they are proposing a 100% affordable housing project. Under this density bonus that is afforded through the Development Code and state law, they are eligible for density bonuses and certain incentives. So they are requesting to develop the site at 27.1 dwelling units per acre for a total of 47 units, approximately 37 feet tall with 3 stories, and the parking request is 1 space per unit. So it's important to explain that because the applicant's proposal is eligible for the density bonus, these development standards that are listed here are not a part of City Council's consideration tonight, and that is because they are reviewed at a staff level through the site plan review, and they're eligible through the Development Code and through state law. So these development standards here are being presented to council to just paint a better picture of what the applicant has presented to the neighborhood, because a lot of the neighborhood concerns come from the project being 47 units. So that's why we want to go ahead and show this here today. And then to better just clarify what's under consideration tonight, again, that is the development standards of the medium, high, and R2 designations. So before I move on, because this is an unusual situation where the applicant's development proposal of the site is different from what the standards are proposed for the designations, I just want to give a brief pause and ask if there's any questions that you have or clarity on just what I've discussed so far.
Questions?
Yeah, I did have questions on understanding when it's exempt or because it's something that we have no discretion over and it's on a staff level. So these that you are highlighting in the green here, then the project goes above and beyond this because they have the bonus, correct?
That is correct. So these would be the development standards of what's being presented for the plan amendment and the rezone that's being presented tonight. Their proposal for their development standards is due to their eligibility for a density bonus that is afforded to them by the Development Code and by state law. And so those afforded development standards essentially come by right for a density bonus and then certain incentives.
Okay, and then those then are reviewed by all of the staff.
That's correct.
To make sure that they meet that density bonus and those standards there.
That is correct.
And because those are by right, then as long as they adhere to that, they're good. So even if we have anything in this green box, which probably doesn't apply because they're not doing these things, then there's really nothing.
They are seeking the plan amendment and the rezone in order to develop their project, because at the current density and zoning, even with a density bonus, they wouldn't be able to develop their project. So it's needed, yeah.
Okay. But then the actual nuts and bolts don't apply, just that this is more of a cleanup.
They would have they would apply to the parcel because the designations run with the land, so it is a land use change. In this situation, it's just a little bit unique and different because they are proposing an affordable housing project, which we don't see come all the time. So that's why it's a little bit of a unique situation.
And this is the first one that I recall?
I don't know. This is not the first one.
Where there's...
but...
Was Butterfly Gardens done the same way then?
Yeah, Butterfly Gardens was one.
Okay, all right.
Tell me about the project at Minnewawa and Barson.
There's been several over the years, but
okay.
not super often.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Liz.
Go ahead, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So a part of the general plan process is for the applicant to provide neighborhood meetings. So in January of 2024, the applicant did hold an informal meeting prior to submittal of the application. At this meeting, there was approximately 20 neighbors in attendance. This is where the applicant described their initial proposal to develop 51 units of affordable housing at the site at the 3-story limit for the whole building. There was concerns from the neighborhood regarding the 3-story height, increase of traffic, parking potentially into the neighborhood, and then overall frustration with the previous developer that proposed multifamily at this site. And then after formal submittal, the applicant held a second neighborhood meeting. This was in June prior to the Planning Commission hearing. There was approximately 25 neighbors in attendance. At this meeting, the applicant did describe their proposal, which they took into consideration the neighborhood concerns with the height, and they did lower the height on the eastern elevation along Osmond Avenue to 2 stories in order to provide a more compatible transition between the single-family homes to the east along Osmond Avenue. So that was one of the changes that they made. The neighbors did still voice overall concern for the 3-story high traffic and parking at this neighborhood meeting. And then in July, we took the project to the Planning Commission. 3 neighbors did speak in opposition of the project, citing concerns for the height of the building, the density, and just overall traffic concerns. There were no written comments that were received for the Planning Commission hearing, and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of a vote of 5-0. Following Planning Commission, the applicant held another neighborhood meeting prior to tonight's City Council hearing, where there were 4 neighbors in attendance. Most of the neighbors just had general questions on the project, and 1 neighbor did voice appreciation for the applicant's development proposal. We did receive 1 comment letter for tonight's hearing, and that is available in your public comment packet. As part of the plan amendment and rezone, staff did take into consideration the neighborhood concerns. So this slide, I'm just going to go over a few of the responses. So in regards to the 3-story height, again, it's a little bit of an unusual situation, but for the general plan amendment and rezone in consideration tonight, the R2 does limit the maximum height of a development to 35 feet or 2 stories. So if there was a situation where this project did not come, the limitation to the height would be 35 feet or 2 stories in absence of an eligible affordable housing project. So that was one of our evaluations. And then regarding traffic, the applicant did provide a traffic study for the project. The traffic study did conclude that there was just an additional 1 a.m. peak trip, 1 p.m. peak trip, and then overall 50 additional trips per day. So the traffic study did conclude that there would be minimal traffic impact from the project, and that was studied at the 47 units. And then along with city vehicle miles trails guidelines, there would be a less than significant impact from the project. In regards to overall compatibility with the site and the neighborhood, the development project is consistent as a transition between the multifamily that's existing to the west and then the single family homes. So staff does conclude that it is compatible with the neighborhood, and it's also adjacent to various citywide amenities, such as the Old Town Trail, the Senior Center, the Transit Center, Old Town, shopping, dining. So we do feel like it's a compatible addition to the neighborhood and the surroundings. When staff is evaluating for the plan amendment and rezone, there are findings that should be made. And part of that is finding that the project is consistent with the general plan policies. We found that this project is internally consistent. The amendment would not be detrimental to the public interest, safety, or general welfare of the city. The parcel is physically suitable for the proposed project, and it can be served efficiently for water and sewer. The project would promote development of an underutilized infill site, provide alternative housing stock in the housing type in the area, and contribute towards the city's housing stock. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve the environmental finding of a CEQA exemption for the project, amend the general plan to redesignate the property from medium density residential to medium high density residential, and consider the introduction for the ordinance to rezone the subject property from R1 to R2. And I am available for questions.
Thanks, Liz. Questions for George or Liz?
I have a couple questions. If I understood it correctly, there's going to be 1 parking space per unit, so there's going to be potentially 3-bedroom apartments with 1 parking space. Is that correct?
So the proposal is a majority one one-bedroom units, so it's a total of 47. 44 of them will be one-bedroom, 2 will be two-bedroom, and 1 will be three-bedroom, and then the 1 three-bedroom is a manager unit. And so they are proposing that 1-to-1 ratio.
That kind of allays my concerns about the parking. When this project came before council 3 years ago, the traffic study was what I had an issue with. I didn't buy the bill we were being sold by the person who did the study. With this as a senior complex, that allays my traffic concerns, and the proximity to both the transit center and the senior center and downtown, I think this is a huge benefit for the citizens of Clovis. And I know one 82-year-old woman who's been dying to get here. And so hopefully we can get that done quickly. Thank you.
Thanks, Trina. Long?
Liz, I'm trying to understand sort of the exemptions and then sort of how we start to maneuver and or inform the public as we move more and more of these projects through, especially with sort of the next item and how we will develop the funds. My first question is, the GPA now doesn't disrupt our normal GPA cycles because it's exempt because it's an affordable project. Is that correct? I know you didn't go over that, but I've read that. So as many of these can come through and not affect the normal GPA cycles. Is my understanding correct on that?
That's correct, yes, because of the affordable aspect of the project, yes.
Okay. So, and potentially then there may be more GPA hearings because it doesn't disrupt the normal, I don't know, we get 2, 3, 4 cycles per year, so it may be more potentially. It may not fall under those 4. Or it doesn't take away any of those 4.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So it preserves those rights for normal GPAs.
Correct.
Okay. And then my sort of next question is with regards to the CEQA exemption. I looked at the exemption and it seemed to ask different questions than what CEQA usually looks for, because you had a whole table starting on page 107 of the requirement, and then does it meet it, the requirement, does it meet it? And so does it now look at what qualifies for the exemption different than what CEQA usually looks after? I ask that because then it doesn't even ask us to sort of say, is there a traffic issue? Is there a blight issue? Is there a service? So those are usually what we see in the CEQA documents. But these questions, other than the sewer and water box, it doesn't address any of that. And so it could be exempt from CEQA analysis if it meets these, I didn't count how many, but these items.
Yeah. That CEQA exemption is specific to affordable housing projects. Mm-hmm. So it's only, again, for affordable housing projects. And it is a newer state law that is for this exemption. Everything that's outlined in that exemption is just what's provided by state law.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that is not addressed in that, it's because it's not required to be addressed.
Okay. So my question then is, why are we requiring a traffic study when it is exempt from CEQA, which analyzes all that stuff? So why not save the applicant the extra cost if it's exempt? I know we're doing it extra so we satisfy the neighbors, but we're trying to make it as affordable as possible.
Right.
Yet now we're going, go do this study, but yet it's not one of the things that this new law requires us to look at anyway.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to understand the logic of why we required it or why they went above and beyond and did an extra traffic study.
Yeah, you were right on the dot. So it wasn't required.
Okay.
The applicant did offer this at their own will, and it was to just really make sure that they addressed neighborhood concerns. That's really why they did the traffic study. It wasn't something that we required because it was determined that through city guidelines it would be a less than significant impact.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have required this of the project otherwise. So this was something that they chose to do.
And so I want to know on the record, I appreciate going above and beyond, but I also want the public to know that traffic studies are exempt, because it's not being looked at here. And so that way, if we don't do anything in the future, that the public understands why, because it is a state requirement coming down by right. And then with regards to sewer, so I didn't address all the others, which I think potentially can cause concerns for us as a city, but it does talk about the housing project site. This is on page 109 now. The affordable housing project site can be adequately served by existing utilities or extensions. And it's saying because it's an infill that it can satisfy that. So my question is, if it's not an infill and if it's a 400 unit, will then that trigger us to look at, hey, can the sewer capacity handle it on this site? Because we studied, because it's based on the 2014 GPA, General Plan Amendment. And so we studied it according to whatever that zone is, right? The sewer capacity, the water capacity. So I'm going, so if it was huge, will it trigger it then or no? Because it's still an infill project. I'm trying to understand what the thought process is, because my biggest concern with the state law is we do our environmental based on whatever that zoning is. And potentially, there can be large projects coming in, larger units than we ever accounted for the pipes and or infrastructure that we need. So when do we then go, that's not going to meet capacity? When does that trigger that? Or maybe we haven't met it yet. But I just want to lay that out there so that way we know or we are aware. Anybody can.
Yeah, I can try. So part of the CEQA exemption for the state, it does list out certain requirements. And one of them is essentially that it does have to be infill. So if it's something that's not infill, that would not be eligible for this specific exemption, right? So then they may trigger additional studies, additional review, dependent on that situation. The way that it's worded is that 75% of the perimeter of the proposed project adjoins a developed urban use. Mm-hmm. So that would be considered something that we would call infill. So in a situation where it was not, then this exemption wouldn't even apply to that project specifically. Okay. Yeah. And then that would lead a path forward to study it in that situation, because it wouldn't be exempt.
Not that we have a lot of large parcels that potentially can lead to a larger unit development, mm-hmm. But if and when it does, I just wonder how that satisfies in the future. But I trust we will look at it. Yeah. Accordingly. Yeah. Andy, did you?
Well, in my experience on these projects, when the project goes to a civil engineering plan review, a lot of those issues are also looked at upon development. City engineer can speak to that at all, but when we do have issues, they have to get dealt with at some point, and they often are caught during the civil review process of plans for facilities in the area.
My last question is with regards to many times when there's a CEQA analysis, police and fire services are sought for their opinion of what the impact is on those services. So these type of developments do not require that anymore. So there's no input from PD and or fire with regards to the impact potentially on their services. Because it's not one of the boxes, that's why
yeah, so it might not be directly related to the CEQA exemption, but we do route these projects to both of those departments as a standard for any kind of commenting for development projects, and we didn't receive any comments of concerns from either of them.
My real question, is it required?
Of the CEQA exemption?
Because it's not, right? I don't see it as one of the boxes. So in other words, say fire comes back and says, hey, you need to do A, B, C. Mm-hmm. Is it technically, we can't do that, is my question, because it's not one of the items that can make it stop, because it's not under one of these items. So I'm trying to understand that moving forward, how that works. Does my question make sense?
Yeah, I think that I think that if it's life or safety, there can be, certain provisions that would have to be required for a project, right? But I don't believe that it's evaluated in the CEQA analysis specifically.
Okay. I always see it in there, because they always put a little blurb going, fire looks at this new development, and it won't affect services, will still be good. Police says the same thing. And so, if and when they see something, I just wonder how that affects the project, and so that way we understand what we can and cannot do going forward. I think that's all I have, so thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, I have just kind of a follow-up question on, Councilmember Montua's question. So I think what I'm trying to understand is the items that are actually before us tonight are the general plan amendment and the rezone. And that would be, if anything happened to this specific project, that would be in place. That would be for whatever happens on that parcel. That's the action before us tonight. But because of this specific project, there's the density bonus and the other incentives that are in play that actually allow for more units to be developed on that parcel. And I think that's where the question is coming as far as infrastructure and the capacities for sewer and water, and then also public safety concerns. If we as a council can look at it and say the standard GPA and rezone looks good to us, but have to acknowledge that something higher and more dense and that is actually going to be there, how do we account for that in a sense? If we know, okay, everything is kosher at 35 units, but this is actually going to be 47, what's our responsibility in a sense to navigate that difference? So, okay, I guess the question, if my concern was, I don't know that 47 units is appropriate for that parcel, do I even have the opportunity to question that?
You do not.
Yeah, so I just kind of want that out there too. All we can look at, we almost can't even consider the density bonus, and that in our action, we can only consider whether we think this parcel is suitable for the general plan amendment and rezone that's actually before us. Is that correct?
That's what I hear. I think because it's 100% affordable, the rules are different and it's by right. So we're going to give them the underlying land use, and then because the project is this, that, and the other, then it allows for these exemptions and the CEQA boxes that are in the report. That's how I hear you. Is that right?
And those density bonus ordinances are available to anyone that owns R2 property throughout the city.
Yeah.
So that is what the R2 zoning is what activates that level of density. There are density bonuses for R1 and R3, and it permeates.
The rules will be different. It was just a standard R2 development somewhere that we had more control over.
See, I personally am in favor of this project, this specific project at this location, but the public comment that came in was a question of if this project fell through, would we be open to anything at that density bonus coming in? That's not the case. But then also, as Councilmember Montua was pointing out, we need to make sure that we are fully understanding of how this works moving forward, as more projects like this could potentially be coming for us. So I just wanted to clarify that and make sure I really understood what I'm allowed to do.
Do you want to add something, George?
Yes, if I may. I wanted to go back to Mayor Pro Tem Tua's comment about infrastructure. So just to kind of bolster the analysis that we did, as a reminder, a few years ago when we brought the prior project, staff did analyze the infrastructure analysis through a mitigated negative declaration where we found it to be serviceable, with the current infrastructure. And I'll let the city engineer correct me if I'm wrong on that. And the CEQA for tonight, it references that mitigated neg deck that was done a couple years ago. And that prior project was proposing more units than what the applicant's proposing here this evening.
But George, all I'm saying is, if this was the initial application, and this sewer and water says okay, there wouldn't be an analysis. We're just fortunate that there was another project that came beforehand that we had that data to look at. So my thing is, let's look at this just at first glance. They are not required to do a traffic study, they're not required to do a sewer study as long as these check boxes are made. And that's sort of my point, so the public understands, we cannot put those in.
Correct.
Yeah, to stop an applicant, so that way our citizens know this is what the state is issuing or allowing. And we are fortunate to have applicants who are conscious of its community and saying, hey, we had a community meeting, they were concerned about these things, let's do a study, let's ease some of their concerns. They had concerns about height, and even if we're compliant, hey, let's make it so that way we are a good neighbor. And that's what I appreciate about the applicant group that is coming before us. But with no priors, there's nothing to allude to other than the EIR that was during the general plan amendment. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then with regards to the CEQA exemption, it's not because of the density bonus. The CEQA exemption is because it's a 100% affordable project. So
Right.
Those are two separate things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's how I understood as well. Thank you.
All right. I don't know where we are. Are you finished? Are you finished? It's not very polite. Thank you for your presentation. Excellent, John. Good job. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then we've already asked questions. Any more questions for staff? All right, let's open the public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to comment on this item, we would welcome your comments at this moment. Oh, make him do it, Lori.
Good evening. I'm Lori Doyle with Affordable Housing Development Corporation, co-developer of the 135 Osmond Apartments. AHDC has been in Clovis for about 40 years. We built, I think we still own about 5,000 units throughout California, about 400 here locally in the city of Clovis. So we've been here, we plan to stay here, and we're long-term operators, as most of you do know that. I'm here to take any questions you have about the project, the general plan amendment, the rezone, and anything else we can assist you with.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Just want to introduce myself as well. My name is Michael Duarte. I'm the CEO of Better Opportunities Builder. It's a nonprofit developer based here in Fresno County, and it's developed well over 20 projects here in Fresno County. Nice
and related to Housing Authority, yeah?
Yes, it's an affiliate of the Fresno
Which
Housing
is
Authority.
so great. So it's nice to see the Housing Authority and these public-private partnerships. So that's great. Nice to see you here. Thanks for being here, both of you. Any questions for either of these folks?
Well, I said earlier, Lori and Michael, I appreciate, your willingness to the traffic study to put these intersections in our report here saying, hey, there are no concerns, there are no traffic issues to ease the concerns of residents. So that way, really, us wanting it, but then you actually did it to do the due diligence of easing the concerns of the citizens. And also with regards to the three-story, taking it out on the west side near the residents. So we appreciate your willingness to bring a good product into our city, and so that way people can really see, okay, we're more scared of the term than the actual results that come in and the families that will move into there. And since it's a senior living units, the families who will come and see the seniors and actually get to experience our great city. So thank you for working so well with our staff on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you both. Anyone else from the public wishing to comment on this item? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the City Council. There are two items, two separate motions, if that's the pleasure of the council.
I'll make a motion to approve General Plan Amendment 2024-004, a resolution approving a CEQA exemption from further environmental review, and an amendment to the general plan to redesignate the subject property from the medium-density residential 4.1 through 7 dwelling units per acre designation to the medium-high-density residential designation.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And the rezone?
I'll make a motion to rezone 2024-003, an ordinance rezoning the subject property from the R1 single-family residential low-density zone district to the R2 multifamily medium high-density zone district associated with approximately 1.73 acres of land located along the east side of Osmond Avenue and the west side of Barron Avenue, north of Second Street.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? I just want to say, for the record, I can't think of actually fewer better parcels for a senior project than this one. So I really agree with, Drew. I just think it's just a great location. We need more staff at the senior center because we have like 100 new members coming. But I just think it's such a great, and I know that for the neighbors that live there a long time, any development is a little bit jarring, but I think you just can't ask for a better neighbor than a project done by you folks, but for seniors. I just can't think of almost a better fit. So thank you, for working this. It's taken a while, but it's worth the wait, so thank you so much. All right, I think there's a motion and a second, is there not? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion, opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Thank you both very much. Next up is, item number 16, authorizing the submittal of an application to the State of California Housing and Community Development Department's Local Housing Trust Fund Program for the 135 Osmond Senior Apartments, requesting $1 million in Local Housing Trust Fund, approving the city award and match of Clovis Housing Trust Fund in the amount of $1 million, and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the LHTF program application, standard agreement documents, and any amendments thereto. Claudia.
Good evening,
And Holly.
Good evening, Council President Ashbeck and council members. I'm Claudia Cáceres, Housing Program Manager for the City of Clovis. This is Holly Greathouse, Staff Analyst Extraordinaire with the city's Affordable Housing Program. The item before you today will include
That's a cool new job title.
Will include discussion and review for funding for two projects, including the 135 Osmond project you just discussed and approved the planning activities for. This presentation is to discuss, review, and decide on the project to be selected for funding under the City of Clovis's Affordable Housing Trust Fund program, and to select which projects will be submitted as pipeline and application projects to the State of California for matching funds. As you may remember, the implementation of the Housing Trust Fund program has progressed over several months this last year. This meeting is needed to be able to apply to the state matching funds and award the Clovis funds. Today we will be presenting information on the Housing Trust Fund program updates, proposals received, and project-specific data. The information will assist you in reviewing staff's recommendation and making a determination on project selection. And please feel free to stop me along the way if you have any questions on the data presented. To recap, the city has its own housing trust fund. The Clovis Housing Trust Fund was established with the purpose to double the available funding through an application to the State of California's Local Housing Trust Fund program, which can provide a one-to-one match if it's selected for funding. Council established the Housing Trust Fund via resolution April 8th. The approved resolution then directed staff to set up and fund the Housing Trust Fund program in the amount of $1 million, which was done July 1st through the City of Clovis's 24-25 budget. Subsequently, the City Council approved the program guidelines at its August 5th, 2024 meeting. Staff publicized the program for applications the following day, starting August 6th, and closed the application period on August the 20th. The application for the State of California Matching Trust Fund is due September the 17th, 2024. Next, I will provide some information on the application review process. As mentioned previously, the application period for the Clovis Housing Trust Fund ran from August 6th to August 20th. We received two applications. One was for the 135 Osmond Senior Apartments for 47 senior housing units, and one was for the Cottages at Magnolia, which provides 7 senior housing units. City staff internally reviewed the projects for adherence to our local guidelines. We compared the projects to see how they would be likely to score if submitted to the State of California's match program. We then reviewed the financial viability of both projects so that staff could provide a funding recommendation. Staff presented the projects along with our recommendation to the CDBG Citizens Committee, which held their first meeting on August the 22nd. Our selection and the committee's feedback will be provided in a later slide. Staff also posted the projects for public comment on our website and in social media channels starting August the 26th. No public comments were received on our social media channels. Next, I will present information on the two projects submitted. First, I'll start with the 135 Osmond Senior Apartment project. provides 47 new apartment units. The total development cost is $28.5 million. They have requested $1 million in Clovis Housing Trust Fund monies, and they requested $1 million in matching California funds. Based on the Clovis Housing Trust Fund monies, the project is requesting $21,739 per unit, which means that for every $21,000, we get 1 unit. The second project is the Cottages at Magnolia. It provides 7 new independent living cottage-type homes. The total development cost for that project is $1.7 million. They have requested $500,000 in HTF funds from Clovis, along with a $500,000 matching fund application to the state of California. Based on just the Clovis HTF, the project is requesting $100,000 per unit, which means that for, of course, every $100,000 of Clovis HTF spent, the city will get 1 unit. The projects are similar in nature. They both have site control, which means they purchase the property and have ownership of the property. Both projects will serve seniors. They diverge a little bit on the units set aside for lower-income households. The 135 Osmond project will set aside 46 units for seniors earning 60% or below of the area median income, which means there's 1 management unit, as you learned previously. 5 of the 46 units will target extremely low-income seniors that earn 30% or less of the AMI. The Cottages project will set aside 5 units for seniors earning 80% or below of the AMI. And 2 of these units will target extremely low seniors earning 30% or less of the AMI. Both projects are also seeking additional funding besides the HTF funds. Both projects are eligible and will form what is called the city's pipeline for matching funds to the state of California. We do have to select 1 project as a selected application for the state's HTF application. Next, I will provide information on the project selected for application and why. So both city staff and the Citizens Committee of the CDBG program recommend the 135 Osmond Senior Apartments project for awarding of $1 million in Clovis HTF and for selection to apply to the state of California for the matching funds in the additional amount of $1 million. City staff and the Citizens Committee both agree that although both applications are worthy and suitable projects, and affordable senior housing is very much needed in Clovis, we both recommend the selection of the 135 Osmond Senior Apartments project for the following reasons. It was concluded that it would be the most beneficial to maximize the use of each HTF dollar to obtain the most units as possible. The city funds requested per unit is low at $21,000 per unit. In the words of our Citizens Committee, the 135 Osmond project gets us the most bang for our buck. Additionally, by setting aside all of their units for 60% or below of the AMI, the 135 Osmond project gets us additional points with the state of California's matching fund rubric. And finally, the 135 Osmond project will utilize all of the $1 million in state funding and double that through the matching fund program. The loan terms for the loan, if the project is selected for funding, will be a 3% simple loan. It's residual receipts, which means it would be repaid yearly if there is income after they have made their primary loan payments. It carries a 55-year affordability, and that's when the loan matures as well. There will be affordability covenants to be recorded against the property, and 5% of the total funding will be set aside as allowed for city staff administration. Next steps is, of course, the application, if recommended if approved for funding, will be due through the state's online form on September the 17th. The state has $53 million available for all of the applications. Of the $53 million, 15% is reserved for new local housing trust funds. So we have an even better chance of getting the matching funds through the state because we're new. Their announcements are planned for December 2024, so later on this year. And if we are selected for funding, the city manager, through this resolution, is authorized to execute those contracts. And lastly, I'd just like to add that staff truly appreciates Magnolia Crossings and the Cottages at Magnolia application through IDLS. We believe the project is a great value to our community, and we will continue to seek out financing for that project and try to make it feasible for the owner. And we can continue looking forward to be in partnership with them. That does end my presentation. I'll have any questions, and of course, you know, the project developers are in present if you have any questions.
Thanks, Claudia and Holly. Any questions for staff? Yeah.
Just a quick question. So just to understand right, regardless if the state gives the $1 million as well, we still do the $1 million? So we're hoping that we get a total of $2 million for the project?
We're hoping we get a total of $2 million for the funding. If they are not selected for matching funds, it would be rather difficult because this is through the settlement agreement, which required the matching funds for the original $1 million put into the Housing Trust Fund program. So more than likely, we would wait for a subsequent cycle for them to reapply for the matching funds program.
Long?
So just to follow, so if it is not matched, we keep the $1 million?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because this isn't executing any contracts, the $1 million is just, set aside for their project.
Okay. And then, why the 5% for us?
It's allowed within our own program guidelines and within the state of California's program guidelines. It's an up to 5%.
But why?
Because,
okay, I'll say it frankly. Are we banking on getting this 5% to help fund this department? Because if we're not, why are we taking it? Why not give 100% over to affordable housing? And so I'm trying to understand why. Because if we're a fee-for-service, kind of like planning development, I understand. Work hard because we're getting 5%. It'll get us more staff. But if it isn't, 5% is a lot. And so I know that it's up to, but I'm just saying why. I need to hear that justification. I don't know why colleagues feel the same way, but I want to hear that justification.
Councilor, if I may, the budget for the housing division is very tight. We have counted on these types of revenues to make that budget whole and not depend on the general fund as much as possible. So that is why we've sought any administrative monies available from the various grants that the department pursues to try and make that sustainable.
So technically, it's really 5% from our reserves going to that department. Technically, right? Because it is from our reserves, and we don't use it unless it's an emergency. We did it because of this, and now just because it's in a different bucket, we carve some off. So I'm trying to see the justification.
All the grants that flow through the department pursue administrative money, so that's been that way since the inception. So this is no different, but it's been very hard to stand up the staff we need to administer the housing programs.
Just a quick question. Would the 5% be a wash if you got matching funds? Because now you're getting that 50,000 from the.
Then they get 100,000.
Then we get 100,000.
Yeah, I think it doubles, right?
Yeah, it would be $100,000 total from the Housing Trust Fund. We are counting on those funds to pay for staff at this point. There could be other ways to pay for it, to your point.
Then it begs the question, what happens now if we have to wait till next year? What happens to Claudia and her staff? See, so I look at it and go, you know, either way, I'm at a tough spot because you got to do what you got to do, and we got to fund you no matter what. But I don't want you to be relying upon the state matching us and the funds going out for you to get your salary. I'm just, I don't know what my colleagues are saying, but we're thinking, but I looked at it. At first, I thought it was for you guys, and I said, you guys need to use it all 100% to the project, because you have to be able to make your monies work. But then I just heard tonight that now it's us, so just putting it out there.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Thank you to you both. Open the public comment, I think. Anyone wishing to comment on this item? Lori and Michael, I know you're here, and I assume in support of the action. If you don't want to stand up and say that, yes, they're nodding. We'll let the record show that you're nodding. Anyone else wishing to comment on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Why am I losing my voice? That's the best news you all have ever heard. Bring it back to the council.
Motion to approve the submittal of an application to the State of California Housing and Community Development Department's Local Housing Trust Fund program for 135 Osmond Senior Apartments, requesting a $1 million LHTF, approving the city award and matching of Clovis Housing Trust Fund in the amount of $1 million, and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the agreement.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
no feelings on the 5%? I mean, I feel like we need to really support 100% of these projects. They have a tough enough time trying to find the funds, and I know that with the match, it's state money, but I feel like we should be managing internally much better than waiting on the fund to go out for us to fund this department. That's my feeling, and I feel like 5%, and then it'll be 5% of $2 million now. It's quite a bit of money. So
Vaughn, I don't think it covers anywhere near what our expenditure is. I think it's a drop in the bucket. But I think when we get our feet wet with these projects and it becomes, I guess, probably less of a workload for staff, I think we can revisit that conversation, at least in my mind.
I guess, I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I agree with Drew, and since this is all new, I do think that as time goes on, you can actually see how this plays out too. You know, if we look at these projects and, we realize that, you know, at some point we feel that we were overcharging these projects at 5%, you know, in the future you can always reduce them as well. But I agree that, it is expensive for staff to put these things together, do the presentations and do the things they do. So if, you know, I think it's $50,000 per million. Just my thought.
I guess I don't know of a single grant that doesn't get some money for administrative costs. I'm not saying that's a reason to do it, but I just think we cannot keep asking our staff to do more and more, and here's an opportunity for a little help, and say we're not going to take it. So I think someday we're going to have a super robust program. I think our Housing Trust Fund is so great. I'm thrilled about it. I think it's going to need sustainability and resource. So in my mind, it's part of the longer-term equation of the city of Clovis. So it's a little bit, in my mind, I hear you, a little bit penny wise, pound, what's that expression? That. So is it a lot of money? Of course. But is it going to make or break this project? Or I just don't think so. So I think it's worth investing in the sustainability of our team. Are they going to lose their job if they don't get the 5%? Of course not. But I just think we can't keep asking for do more, take on more, manage a new program, a new committee, a new this. You may need a part-time analyst to help you. So in my mind, it just seems like a super great investment to get this thing going. So I don't have any trouble with it and don't have any hesitation that it's the right thing to do. And if it turns out it's too much and your citizen advisory committee said, hey, it should be 3, okay, bring it back and we'll take a look at 3. But I feel like it's the right thing to do for this city. So that's just my slightly different view. So.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and weigh in, so everyone has, I can see kind of both sides of it, because I appreciate, Vaughn, that you are mindful of those things and want us to be addressing them and not just kind of saying, hey, that's great, we're allowed to do it, let's do it. So I think that's very wise to make sure that we have gone through that. But I do also see the kind of what it is at the outset. This is our first time applying for these matching funds, and all of the different things that Claudia and her team have had to take on this year, I can also see the importance and, frankly, the responsibility that we have to the taxpayers in our city to make sure that we're going after every dollar that we can to fund every service that we put out there. And in turn, that 5% is actually going back into being able to develop more of these projects and to be able to take care of the next round of applications and any of those new things that come up through this process with the matching funds and the Housing Trust Fund and all of those things that are brand new to us. And I do agree also with Drew and Matt that in the future, we're going to look back and reevaluate all of it and see what did work, what didn't work, and what we can do better, what we can streamline, and that. So I think at this point, and for consideration beyond just this immediate agenda item, just for the consideration of the city as a whole and the budget and all of those things, I think it's appropriate for us to make sure that we're taking advantage of those things. And again, we'll be responsible to look back. I know Claudia, Holly, the staff will look back and say, hey, we didn't need all 5%. It's up to that. This is what covers our costs. This is what takes care of us, and make sure that we're being responsible in all aspects of the project.
I'll just say it again, that if we consider this something we wanted to do and we're gonna do, they shouldn't even have to worry about it. And it should already be something in the budget in which they no longer have to worry about, in which these funds were, when I thought we're gonna put that 1 million in, it's 1 million for affordable housing out the door, not, oh, we'll keep 5. And then, you know, it's really 95 out the door. And so that, I just think that if we are serious about it, hey, you're funded all the time. General fund, we're gonna take care of you, so that way you go make this the best it is, instead of having to hustle so much to try to go, okay, you know, we gotta, you know, we're getting pressure, we gotta get some of these out, we gotta make sure we get a matching grant. So that's my look on it, where it's tied to that, and I don't want it to be tied to that. I want them just to be secure, 100% goes out. So, but I yes.
All right, so I think there's a motion and a second. So we'll take that as a call for the question. All those in favor of the motion to submit this application to the Housing Trust Fund, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Thank you all. Item number 17 is consider the approval of the change of a council meeting schedule. On this item is John Holt, and I'm going to step away for just a minute, so if you would take over, I would.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Staff is recommending canceling next week's meeting, which is September 9th. So our next meeting would be September 16th. That concludes staff's report, and we're available for questions.
Are there any questions for the staff? Okay. We'll open it to the public. Anyone wishing to address item number 17? Seeing none, we'll close it and bring it back to the council. We can get a motion.
Motion to approve item 17.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, and just note, okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And I guess it'll be an abstention?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a note for the record that the mayor stepped off the dais for this vote. We'll move now to item number 18. Okay, and we'll wait for the mayor to lead the meeting on 18 forward.
I have the title misstated. This is actually for item number 18, even though I put 17 here. I've been on the road for 10 days. For this particular item, staff is recommending the City Council consider moving the City Council meetings from Monday at 6 p.m. to Tuesday at 4 p.m. The last change that was done in the council meeting dates was done in 2010 when the meeting was moved from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. The meetings are currently scheduled for the first 3 Mondays of each month, with whenever we have a holiday, it follows on a Tuesday. The recommendation would be to move the meeting for the first 3 Tuesdays at 4 p.m. And part of the justification for the recommendations is going to be that as the city grows, the meetings are generally running a little bit longer, and there's a belief that starting the meetings would lead to ending earlier. And also, the reality is that considering complex items after 10 p.m. could be problematic and difficult for people my age. I didn't say your age. I didn't say your age. I said my age. Moving to Tuesday would also allow staff further time in preparing for a Monday meeting compared to a Tuesday meeting. So staff is recommending council consider this evening. I would highly recommend the Tuesday meeting. The 4 p.m. was just a suggestion I threw out there to begin the conversation. And with that, I'd be looking for, and this would not be effective until January of 2025. We would implement it if council were to approve it. So with that, I'm available for questions and comments.
Questions, comments, discussion, thoughts?
It makes sense. The only concern I have is 4 o'clock, that it could shunt public participation because a lot of folks are still going to be at work. I'm opening that to discussion. That's the only concern I have.
Other thoughts?
I would agree with that. 4 o'clock time could make it harder for public to be here. It'd be great for staff and everyone else because they can get out of here a lot earlier, but.
Would you be open to 5 or would you be looking at 6? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think 5 is, 5 would work. I mean, 4 o'clock, people tend to get off work and make their way here, but I would be okay with 5.
I'm a 6 o'clock, so I prefer 6, just because people do get home, they gotta pick up their kids, if they're concerned, or, you know, they gotta prep some quick dinner for their kids before they come out. But if it's 5, then, you know, people with little kids will not be able to get out here. And anyone who's working or the applicants, they're gonna send their staff, and so regardless of the time, they're gonna make it because they need to be here. So we have to think of those who can't be here.
Would there be an option to shift public comment? So if we were starting earlier, because I agree that when they get late, it's really difficult to have the complex items or the controversial items going so late into the night. Are there other ways that we could alleviate the pressure of people, of the public, being able to participate?
To Diane's point, I've seen other councils have public comment at the end of the meeting. That would really, but that also,
waiting around.
that also shunts public participation. So maybe moving it, I don't know. I mean, we could try 5, see, and open it up to the public and say, hey, is this work for you? And if they say this is awful, I can't, you know, because to your point, Vaughn, you're right. When, you know, if you're working, you're trying to get home, you're trying to make sure the kids are doing their homework, and then you're gonna, you know, you only have so many hands. 4 might be too early, 5 might not be early enough, or might be, I don't know. I'm okay with 6, I'm okay with 5. I kind of want to be open to the burden that we also put on staff because they have families too.
Well, I look at the reason for what we're looking at ourselves when we're worried about going late. And so if going late is the concern because, so many public is staying here till 11, okay, yeah. But I think our reasons have been, it's because of us. We're tired, we can't. No, we're elected to be sharp. We're elected to stand and discuss until whenever it ends. And not, you know, I also want to say, they're paid to be here, okay? And so they have, their duty is to do it as long as it takes as well. That's why I look at that and I go, okay, now, you know, I understand, okay, maybe we're not paid enough, that's another discussion, but I'm saying we're here to, if it's late, it shouldn't bother us as much as if we're early and we lose the public, that's all. I'm trying to hear the reason for why late meetings running late, you know, hinders our ability to do things well.
I will say, when you're talking about staff being paid, they start their day at 8 in the morning, and then you go till 8, 10 o'clock at night, you're doing 14, 16-hour days for a council meeting. So, I don't know. Most of them on salary, so, that are here, you know, I don't know. I still think we can make it work at 5. It's not that, you know, we're running late. It could go late on most of those nights. If not, then maybe we consider the staff doesn't come in till noon on those days. I don't know. I mean,
I guess there's a number of ways you can take a look at it in researching some of the cities over 100,000 in the state of California. You know, some of them start at 9 a.m. on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. on Thursdays. They range from doing a workshop beginning at 5. Maybe another city does a closed session beginning at 5. There's a number of ways to tackle it. If I got a Tuesday at 6, I'd consider that a win. But there's other ways to manage this also.
So I might, go ahead.
You know, Vaughn, the advantage here is that the next mayor could actually have some information on that and push his or her agenda on that, just saying.
I think what I would say is I'm not interested in doing it tonight at all. I think we're upside down. I think we're solving for the wrong problem a little bit, to Vong's point. So, for example, the reason we're here at 11 o'clock is because either the mayor doesn't manage the meetings or we have too many things on the agenda. We just cancel the meeting. So maybe we need to do a better job of spreading out agenda items over time. So I feel like we're solving for the wrong problem. I am a creature of habit, so I'm a Monday night person. I've done it for a long time. I think if you imagine a future workforce, like when I had my job with the hospital association, I couldn't have been on the council because I was on the road every week from Tuesday to Thursday. I couldn't have done it Tuesday night. So I think Tuesdays are more limiting about what you might do in the course of a week as an employee. Now, Mondays are better because you have a 3-day weekend, so okay, that's great. But again, that's not the thing you sign up for here. So I would just, I think it's an interesting conversation. I think we could do a better job of workshops. Maybe we have on the fourth Monday, we do a workshop. I don't think we probably use our time as well as we could. I appreciate canceling meetings. We're all going, oh, yay, but again, that's the wrong answer. So I just think we're solving for a problem that I'm not clear with the problem that we're getting at. So I think it's an interesting conversation. I'd love to see more options, more workshops, more, I don't know what, more with the Planning Commission, some way to better utilize the time and manage the agenda items. We used to have a rule that we wouldn't start an agenda item after 10 o'clock. We don't do that anymore. So we had some ways to manage that. Maybe that's even too late, 9. I think public comment at the end is terrible because I'm not going to stay up until 9 o'clock if I'm here to talk about my barking dog neighbor. So I think we're mixed up. And maybe we do a quick social media poll. Hey, anybody care? Anybody come? What do you think? I mean, I'm not sure if anybody has an opinion, but it is not about us. It is about doing the work of the city. I want to support staff. I work a lot of 14-hour days in hospitals, so I appreciate 14-hour days, but it's kind of what you signed up for, so I'm not as worried about that. So I don't know. I just think this is the solving a problem that doesn't, I'm not clear on the problem we're trying to solve. So opening the discussion night is fine. I'm not going to vote for Tuesday at 4 o'clock ever, today for sure, until we just do a little more thinking about it. I'm not ready to do this. I think we can do a better job managing our work than changing it to today at 4 o'clock. For random, and I have a full-time job, so I'm not done at 4 o'clock. Could I be? Sure. Could I do it every week? Probably hard to excel. So I just think it's a little bit limiting. Now, if we want to say in 4 years, we're going to have a full-time counselor, they're going to meet on Tuesday mornings from, like, the city of Fresno, and then you pay $160,000, okay. That's a different set of circumstances than we pay here. So I just think we're solving a problem that we're not quite ready to solve for. So,
can I add one?
Yeah.
I do support the Tuesday. I think that would be fantastic. As far as the timing of that, I do think we should take more advantage of the couple of times we've had closed session before the meeting. So the meeting maybe could still start at 6, but we do closed session earlier, 5 o'clock, whatever the agenda item would call for, and some other kind of workaround outside the box. I wasn't trying to say public comment needed to be at the end, but just how do we, if this is the issue, what are the options for it, not just A or B? Are there other multiple choice things that we could look at? So I do kind of agree that we're probably not ready to make any actual decisions on it, but I would be for the Tuesday, and I think we can still negotiate and figure out the timing aspects of it with all the different considerations that would probably work best for all participants.
So there's some public here. Anybody want to comment? Public? It's up to you. This is better than a social media survey. Those are dumb anyway. Oh, there you are. I know. Where's your cohort that usually?
I don't know.
Unreliable. It's hard to find good.
Some are online. I'm Jenny Kren, and I live on Bullard Avenue here in Clovis. Anyway, in terms, I think that the mayor is kind of hit it on the head. Is part of the problem is just managing the length of the meetings. The public, for the most part, has left already, and when the meetings go after 9, I know I leave because I just get too tired. So part of the issue is managing the length of time. I do understand. I mean, I can kind of in my head understand what Mr. Holt is saying in terms of getting everything put together so that the meeting can happen on Monday evenings, and I can see why it might be helpful to have that extra day and also not to lose so many Monday holidays. It does, I'm missing another meeting, because it's Tuesday and not, the usual Monday. So, changing it is a little bit of an issue, but managing the length of the meetings is probably the most important. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Anyone else? Any of you want to comment on this? You're on a Tuesday, no comment. Okay. All right. All right, we'll close the public portion. What is the pleasure of the council?
Kind of sounds like there's no consensus with us, and we can continue the discussion, I think.
So can we make a motion to continue this item to somewhere later in the fall? Maybe you can come back with some variations of workshops and/or closed sessions in advance and/or larger cities have council committees on things. We've never done that. I don't even know what we'd have a committee for, but that's a thing. So can we just think through what we're trying to accomplish
Yes.
before we act on Tuesday at 4?
Yes.
So is there a motion to continue this item to a future date?
Motion to continue at a future date.
Second?
I'll say it.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So it's on the table,
Thank you.
future reference, future discussion. Let's say we'll decide by the end of the year. Okay. All right. City manager comments.
I'm thinking we should move our meetings to Tuesdays at 4.
That's funny, John.
I have none.
I think the man has already submitted his resignation.
Oh, what's up with that? I'd like to see you here Tuesday at 4 in about a year from now. We'll see how that works out. All right, nothing from John. Council comments, Diane.
So I don't know if I have a photo available. So yesterday, I was able to attend the press conference that welcomed the 9/11 Never Forget mobile exhibit, and it was really great to be there with members of our fire department and police department, including both our chiefs. So I wanted to share that picture and also encourage the public. The exhibit is open tomorrow, and it is open to the public between noon and 2 p.m., and then again from 3 to 7 p.m., and it's just an incredible way to kind of re-experience what not all of us anymore. We have an entire generation that wasn't around when 9/11 happened, and so those of us who, know exactly where we were, that's not the case for so many, and so I encourage the public to take advantage. I believe this is only the second time this mobile exhibit has been in California, and so to have it here in Clovis is really fantastic. It's out at our California 9/11 Memorial, and also to take the opportunity to invite everyone to the 9/11 Memorial event that takes place at 8:30 a.m. on September 11th out at the California Memorial site, the old Pelco building, Peach and Ashland-ish. But just another opportunity, again, 23 years almost. On the 11th will be 23 years, and so the importance of never forgetting the lessons that we learned and the loved ones that we lost is so important, particularly, again, for the next generation coming up who doesn't have those personal memories. So take the opportunity tomorrow, September 4th, to check out this mobile exhibit and attend the memorial event on September 11th, 8:30 a.m. And that's all.
Thank you for attending that. Matt? Drew?
Nothing.
Vaughn?
I do want to thank Thad and Sean. I forgot the engineer's name. What was his name? Our engineer who went with us to the memorial to Mike's daughter. Tim. It shows the long friendship that the different department and the staff has, and I thought about how long I know Mike, and my goodness, I've known him 20 years as well, just being on the planning commission and him presenting. And so I want to thank you guys for being there and for I don't know if was it John, you shared it with us to let us know, so that way long time staff, when they are going through hard, difficult times, that we can show up for each other. It was very touching and meaningful for you guys to be there. Thank you for being friends and support outside of just work here. So I just want to share that.
That's nice. I'm sorry I didn't know when the service was. When was the service? Sorry, I didn't know. All right, well, thanks for going. And I don't have anything either. So, with that, we will adjourn into closed session. We will talk about the item on the agenda, and I suspect will there be action to report out?
We are not requesting action, so there should be no action to report, but we will reconvene in any event,
Okay,
if we need to.
okay.
But
Thanks, everybody.
Any public comments appropriate if there is any.
Okay, thanks.